Hey Jamie, have you heard about financial minimalism? I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it, but I'm not entirely sure what it actually means.
Oh yeah, I have been learning about it recently. It is such an interesting concept. Basically, financial minimalism is about simplifying our financial life so you can focus on what really matters. It is kind of like minimalism, but with your money.
Simplifying your financial life. That sounds great, but what does that actually mean? Like, do I need to stop spending money altogether or live super frugally?
Not at all. That's one of the big misconceptions. Financial minimalism isn't about being cheap or depriving yourself. It's about being intentional with your money. You cut out unnecessary expenses and focus on spending on the things that truly align with your values and goals.
Okay, so it's not about extreme budgeting or not spending at all.
Exactly. It's more about understanding your financial priorities. For example, instead of spending money on things you don't really care about, like random subscriptions or impulse purchases, you use that money to build an emergency fund, pay off debt, or save for something meaningful, like a trip or a big goal.
That makes sense, but doesn't that mean you have to track every single expense? That sounds exhausting.
Not necessarily. Some people do track every penny, but others take a more relaxed approach. The key is knowing your big picture numbers, your income, expenses, savings, and financial goals. Once you have a clear idea of where your money is going, you can focus on cutting out the noise, like unnecessary subscriptions or impulse buys.
Got it. So what's the biggest benefit of financial minimalism?
Oh, there are so many benefits. For starters, it reduces financial stress. When you simplify your finances, you're not constantly worrying about keeping up with bills or running out of money. Plus, it gives you more freedom. When you're intentional with your spending, you can save for the things that really matter to you, whether it's traveling, buying a house, or even just working less.
Freedom sounds nice. I feel like I'm always stressed about money, like I'm working so hard, but it's all just going to bills and random stuff I don't even remember buying.
Exactly. That's why financial minimalism can be so powerful. It helps you align your spending with your values. Instead of feeling like your money is controlling you, you're the one in control.
But what about stuff like treating yourself? Does financial minimalism mean I can't ever buy things just for fun?
Not at all. Treating yourself is totally fine. It's about doing it intentionally. If buying a latte or getting a nice outfit brings you joy and fits into your budget, go for it. Financial minimalism isn't about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes to the things that really matter.
Okay, I like that. But where do you even start? My finances are kind of a mess right now.
Don't worry, everyone starts somewhere. The first step is to get a clear picture of your finances. Look at your income, your expenses, and your debt. Then, identify areas where you're spending money on things that don't align with your values or goals. From there, you can start simplifying.
That makes sense. So, what about long-term goals? Does financial minimalism help with that too?
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the main reasons people choose financial minimalism. By cutting out unnecessary spending, you free up money to save for long-term goals like retirement, buying a home, or even just creating a financial safety net. It's all about setting yourself up for a future where you have more freedom and less stress.
All right, I'm sold. This sounds way more approachable than I thought. Any tips for someone just starting out?
Definitely. Start small. Cancel a subscription you don't use or track your spending for a month to see where your money is going. Then, set one financial goal like saving $1,000 or paying off a credit card and focus on that. The key is to take it step by step and make changes that feel sustainable.
Thanks, Jamie. This actually sounds doable. I think I'll start by looking at my subscriptions and maybe creating a budget. Who knows? Maybe financial minimalism is what I need to finally feel in control of my money.
You've got this, Chris. Just remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making intentional choices. And once you start, you'll be amazed at how much lighter and more freeing it feels.
Hey Tom, have you ever stopped to think about why we spend so much money? Like, I look at my bank statement sometimes and wonder, where did it all go?
All the time. It feels like no matter how much I try to save, the money just disappears. But honestly, I think part of the problem is how easy it is to spend these days. Everything is just a click away.
That's so true. Online shopping has made it way too convenient. I mean, you see something, click add to cart, and boom, it's at your door the next day. No time to really think about whether you need it or not.
Exactly. And it's not just convenience, it's the constant advertising too. Social media is filled with ads and influencers telling us we need this new gadget, outfit, or whatever.
It's hard not to feel like you're missing out if you don't buy it. Ugh. FOMO is the worst. I feel like every time I scroll through Instagram, I see people on these amazing vacations or buying fancy things, and I think, should I be doing that too? It's like a constant reminder of what I don't have.
Totally. Social media is like a highlight reel of everyone else's best moments. You don't see the credit card bills they're racking up to keep up with that lifestyle. But we get sucked into thinking we need to spend to keep up.
Right. And then there's the emotional spending. Like, when I've had a bad day, the first thing I want to do is treat myself by something to feel better. It's like shopping gives me this quick hit of happiness, but it doesn't last.
Yep, been there. It's like a dopamine rush. You feel great in the moment, but later you're left wondering why you bought another pair of sneakers when you already have 5 pairs. It's a vicious cycle.
And I think guilt plays into it too. Like, if I feel bad about not spending enough time with my family or friends, I'll buy them gifts or treat them to dinner as a way to make up for it. It's not the healthiest way to cope, but it happens.
True, and let's not forget about sales. Every time I see a limited time offer or a big discount, I convince myself I'm saving money by buying something I didn't even need in the first place.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, it's like, I can't pass up this deal, it's 50% off. But then I realize I wasn't planning to buy it anyway, so I didn't save anything, I just spent more.
And don't even get me started on subscriptions. They sneak up on you. I signed up for this free trial for a streaming service and totally forgot about it. 6 months later, I realized I'd been paying for something I never use.
Same here. I had a subscription for a fitness app I didn't touch once. It's like, these little things don't seem like much, but when you add them up, they're draining your account.
So why do we let this happen? I mean, we know better, right? But we still do it.
I think it's partly because we don't take the time to really think about what we value. We just spend out of habit or because we're trying to fill some kind of void. Plus, society is constantly telling us that buying more equals being happier or more successful.
Exactly. It's like we've been conditioned to think that spending money will solve our problems. Feeling insecure? Buy new clothes. Feeling bored? Get a new gadget. But it's all temporary, it doesn't actually make us happier.
So how do we stop? How do we break the cycle of spending so much?
I think the first step is awareness. Like, just paying attention to where your money is going and asking yourself, why am I buying this? Does it actually align with what I care about?
Yeah, and maybe taking a pause before making a purchase. I've heard of the 24-hour rule. If you see something you want, wait a day before buying it. Most of the time, you'll realize you don't need it.
That's a good idea. And maybe it's also about redefining what success and happiness mean. Instead of thinking it's about having more stuff, we could focus on experiences or things that bring real value to our lives.
Totally. I mean, the best memories I have aren't tied to things, they're tied to experiences, like trips I've taken or time I've spent with loved ones. Maybe if we focus on those, we won't feel the need to keep buying so much.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with our money, spending on what truly matters and letting go of the rest.
Easier said than done, though.
True, but even small changes can make a difference. Maybe I'll start by cutting back on impulse buys and canceling a subscription or two. Baby steps, right?
Baby steps for sure. I'll do the same. Who knows? Maybe this is the start of us taking control of our spending habits.
Here's hoping. Let's check back in a month and see how we're doing.
Deal. Accountability buddies for smarter spending.
Hey Ethan, I've been thinking about getting my finances in order, but every time I try, I feel so overwhelmed. Where do I even start?
You're not alone. Getting started is always the hardest part. But honestly, the best first step is to know your numbers. Once you know where you stand, everything else becomes a lot clearer.
Okay, but what exactly does that mean? What numbers am I supposed to know?
Great question. It's basically 3 key things: your income, your expenses, and your net worth. Knowing these helps you understand your financial situation and gives you a starting point to build from.
That sounds simple enough. Let's start with income. What do I need to figure out there?
Just add up all the money you bring in each month. That includes your salary, any side gigs, freelance work, or even passive income like rental property or investments. Be sure to focus on your after-tax income, what actually hits your bank account.
I got it. I think I can handle that. What about expenses? That's the part I'm dreading. I feel like I spend money on so many random things.
Yeah, tracking expenses can be eye-opening, but it's super important. Look at your bank statements and credit card bills from the last 3 months. Break your spending into categories like fixed expenses, rent, utilities, insurance, variable expenses, groceries, gas, entertainment, discretionary expenses, subscriptions, takeout, shopping.
Wow, I'm nervous to see how much I'm spending on takeout. It's probably worse than I think.
Hey, no judgment. The point isn't to beat yourself up, it's just to understand where your money is going. Once you know, you can decide if you're happy with how you're spending or if you want to adjust.
Okay, fair enough. What about net worth? I've heard that term, but I don't know how to calculate it.
Your net worth is just your assets minus your liabilities. Assets are things you own like savings, investments, your car, or property. Liabilities are what you owe like credit card debt, student loans, or your mortgage. For example, if you have $10,000 in savings and $5,000 in credit card debt, your net worth would be $10,000 minus $5,000, so $5,000.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if my net worth is negative? I have student loans and some credit card debt, so I feel like it's going to look pretty bad.
That's totally normal, especially if you're just starting out. The goal isn't to have a perfect number, it's to have a clear picture of where you're starting from. Once you know, you can make a plan to improve it over time.
All right, I think I can do this. But once I know my numbers, what's the next step?
After that, it's all about setting goals and creating a budget. Your numbers will show you where you can cut back, save more, or redirect your spending to things that matter to you. For example, if you see you're spending $300 a month on subscriptions you don't use, you could cancel a few and put that money towards savings or paying off debt.
That actually sounds manageable. I guess I just needed to break it down step by step. Thanks, Ethan, this was really helpful.
Anytime, Jessica. Once you start knowing your numbers, you'll feel so much more in control of your money. It's a game changer.
Hey Ben, I finally sat down and figured out my numbers, my income, expenses, and net worth. It was eye-opening, to say the least. But now I'm stuck on what to do next. I keep hearing that I need to define what matters. What does that even mean?
Nice work, Leela. Defining what matters is the fun part. It's about figuring out your values and priorities so you can align your spending with what's truly important to you. Otherwise, it's easy to waste money on things you don't care about.
Okay, but how do I figure out what matters? Right now, it feels like everything's a priority.
I get that. It helps to ask yourself a few key questions. What makes you happiest? What do you really want in life? And what are your long-term goals? For example, are you trying to save for a house, pay off debt, travel more, or build an emergency fund?
Well, I'd definitely like to travel more. And I want to pay off my credit card debt so I'm not stressed all the time. But it's hard to balance those goals with just living day to day.
Totally. That's why defining your values is so helpful. It's like a filter for your spending. If travel and debt repayment are your priorities, you can start focusing your money there and cutting back on things that don't support those goals.
So I should stop spending on everything that isn't travel or debt repayment.
Not exactly. It's not about cutting everything, it's about spending intentionally. For example, if you love going out for coffee because it brings you joy, keep doing that. but maybe skip the random online shopping sprees that don't align with your values.
That makes sense. But what about the things I have to spend money on, like rent and groceries? I can't really cut those.
Of course, some expenses are non-negotiable, but even with those, you can look for ways to align them with your values. Like, if healthy eating is important to you, you might choose to spend a little more on fresh produce and less on takeout. Or if you're saving for travel, you could look for ways to reduce rent, like finding a roommate or downsizing.
Okay, so it's more about making conscious choices with the money I already spend. That feels doable.
Exactly. And it's also about thinking long-term. What kind of life do you want to create? When you know your big goals, it's easier to make sacrifices in the short term because you're working towards something meaningful.
That's a good point. I guess I've been spending without really thinking about what I want my life to look like. How do you stay focused on your goals, though? It feels so easy to get distracted.
One thing that helps is writing them down. Make a list of 3 to 5 things that matter most to you, your core values. Then, whenever you're about to spend money, ask yourself, does this align with my values? If the answer is no, it's probably not worth it.
That's such a good idea. What would your list look like?
For me, it's things like financial freedom, time with family, and personal growth. So I focus my spending on paying off debt, saving for experiences with loved ones, and investing in things that help me grow, like books or courses. Everything else is secondary.
I love that. Okay, so my list would probably include travel, financial security, and health. That feels like a good starting point.
That's a great list. And remember, it's okay if your priorities change over time. What matters is that you're being intentional about how you use your money now.
Thanks, Ben. This actually makes me feel a lot more in control. I think I'm going to sit down tonight and write out my values and goals.